This is a long, sad story. I met my ex-wife, 36 female, in 2016. She was a part-time waitress at a diner near my new workplace. I used to frequent there with coworkers during the lunchtime, and eventually it led to us starting a relationship. We moved quickly, and she moved in with me after 6 months. After 2 years, she found out she was pregnant. It wasn't planned, but we welcomed it with open hands. I earned quite well, owned a house outright, and we had a lot of family support. I proposed to her, and soon we got married in a small but beautiful ceremony. Our son, 5, was born healthy, and we lived a blessed life. In 2020, we started having issues in our marriage. My ex was unhappy with me and was always starting arguments over the smallest things. Then, right before pandemic hit and the lockdown started, my ex wanted a temporary separation because she said she was suffocating and wanted to breathe. I was against this, but she left nonetheless. For the next 4 months, nobody knew where she was. She still called and FaceTimed with our son daily, but she wouldn't tell us where she was. Her parents were extremely disappointed in her and repeatedly tried to get her to come back, but weren't successful. When she materialized again, she asked for a divorce because she had realized over the break that I was financially abusive, emotionally manipulative, and not a good influence on our son. I suggested counseling for her or even marriage counseling for us because I was opposed to our child growing up in 2 homes, but she was hell-bent on divorce. Ultimately, we were divorced by the end of 2020. She took half my house in the divorce. Since she didn't have the money to buy me out, I had to buy her out of my own house, roughly about $150,000 of lump sum. She also ended up with majority custody, so I ended up having to pay $1,400 a month in child support and $2,800 in alimony for 6 months to help her transition. She was expected to find a job after that. Within a week of our divorce, I heard she moved a man into my house, whom, as I suspected, was the reason for the break after all. It got really bad for me after that. I spent months drinking and doing coke. After that didn't help with my pain, I started looking for dealers for hard drugs. Luckily for me, one day I got detained for suspicious behavior. I didn't know who to call since my parents were now living in a retirement village across the state, so I called my ex-in-laws. They came to the station and took me back to their place. They were distraught at the state I was in and the damage their daughter had inflicted on me. At that point, I had realized that it was time for me to clean up my act, or else I'd lose custody of my child and lose my job. After that, I kept functioning like a machine, with no feelings, just motoring through one day at a time. The only driving force for me was seeing my son every weekend. One weekend in 2023, I visited my son in my previous house, and I came face to face with a man. I was startled. It was the first time I ever saw the man who broke our family. He'd always sneak away when it was time for my visitation. My son came springing forward, and one look at my son and another look on the man's face, and it was like lightning striking inside my brain. They were carbon copies of each other. I left immediately and contacted my attorney. We contested paternity and had a court-ordered paternity test. I was not the father. What followed next was a fairly long trial to de-establish paternity and to get the child support payments stopped. The child support payments were discontinued, but the judge refused to get my ex to reimburse me for the $43,000 I paid for 2+ years because it was in the best interest of the child. My ex and the guy she'd been screwing for 5+ years flew off the handle after the verdict. She said I was sickening her and I will pay for taking food off their table. Neither of them worked at the time. That was in August 2023. I've come a long way since then and have slowly been healing myself. I've been attending therapy regularly and live a simple, frugal life. I'm also slowly recovering from the financial strain this whole thing has left me with. Now we come to the reason which has led me to make this post. Like I stated earlier, my ex-in-laws were disappointed in their daughter's choices in life. They made their displeasure known to her and were on my side from the beginning. Unfortunately, they passed in quick succession in late 2023, and now early April. After my ex-mother-in-law passed away last week, her attorney contacted me to let me know that I got majority of her estate, which after taxes would be over $600,000. My ex was given $3,000 to prevent her from contesting the will, and some other family members were given sentimental items. I'm still reeling from this, and my ex has since lost her mind and keeps calling me a thief. Yesterday, she and her man tried to get into my place, but I live in a gated community, so they were turned away. I might have to consider getting a restraining order ultimately, and I'll do it gladly. I still haven't decided what to do with all this money, but I'll slowly figure it out. I have all the time in the world. I guess, in the end, the justice prevailed, one way or another. Story 2. I, 28 male, have been with my girlfriend, 25 female, for just about 2 years. The relationship was good, and then she tells me she's pregnant. For the most part, I'm careful, and she said she was on birth control. I was skeptical but went to an appointment. I then figured it was just one of those things. I always wanted a family, so even though this was not how I wanted to begin, I was overjoyed. We're past the first trimester, and I have her move in at her insistence. Insert red flag I missed. We're planning what we will do work-wise and how to set up the baby's room. She's pretty insistent that she'll be able to go back to work but be able to stay home. She swears she can make it work. I go to every appointment with her. Things are still good. We're in the third trimester, and I make my schedule work to still go to every appointment. Up until this point, I had been at each appointment in its entirety. This one appointment, she asked me to wait so she can talk to the doctor first. I'm super concerned that something is wrong with the baby, and she didn't want me to hear. I go in, and the checkup is done. Everything looks good. My girlfriend brushes off my concern over why I couldn't be there for all of it. Another red flag. We're about a month and a half from the due date, and I notice her being kind of secretive with phone calls and texts. She tells me it's work and it's confidential, etc. My antenna is now up, so I try to get looks at her phone. She's got Snapchat and Kik. I find it strange, but don't confront her. The baby is born, and I'm overwhelmed with emotion. The child is perfect, and things went fine. Then comes the part where they want me to go on the birth certificate. My girlfriend becomes really insistent about it. She's constantly asking me to do it and seems way more anxious than I've ever seen her. Here's the red flag I didn't miss. I don't do it. We have an argument, but she stops pushing. I think it's because she knows how suspect it looks already. We're home, and she has to go tend to the baby after it woke up. I noticed she set her phone down to go to the baby. I couldn't help it and looked. It was still unlocked. I start looking for texts or calls. I then find a whole conversation on Kik with a guy. All the updates of her appointments. Pictures of her and the baby. Then I see it. The place she says she thinks it's his child. I confront her and she apologizes. She admits the baby could be mine or someone else, but she thinks it's mine. I demand a paternity test and leave. It's been about a week since the confrontation. The results came in yesterday and the baby isn't mine. She's gone to live with her mother. Here's the best part. It took me a lot of digging, seeing as all I had were usernames she talked to him to. The father is her boss. The secrecy was for him. The boss with a wife and 4 kids in middle school and high school. I found the wife on Facebook and sent her all I had, including texts from my girlfriend saying it's his. I'm heartbroken in so many ways. I'm lucky in a lot of ways here, but I'm so hurt. This has completely changed my whole outlook. I'm bitter, angry, and untrusting. I have no idea how to recover from this. Update. I've still not spoken to her. I can't bring myself to. I'm conflicted because I still bonded with that baby, yet I am not the father. That is painful. She still tries to contact me. I don't know if it's love. I won't talk to her. On to the guy who is the father. I told his wife. She didn't respond immediately. I found out through my ex that he lost his job. There's some justice in the world. He won't have anything to do with my ex. He blames her for the mess he's currently in. His wife contacted me over a week later. She apologized for what I went through. She was still in shock, I guess. She kicked him out. I have no idea where he went. Their kids know. Everyone knows. My ex still works there, but is in the process of finding a new job, seeing as literally everyone knows what happened now. I'm still in shock some and still heartbroken. This holiday will be tough and sad for me. I know there's hope. I know it'll get better. This shook me to my core, and I don't know how long it'll take. I'm ready to swear off any relationships ever again. That's not love. She's reaching out because she wants a baby daddy since the original baby daddy has bailed. She does not want to be a single mother. Had she loved you, she wouldn't have cheated on you in the first place. Make no mistake. She tried to con you into signing the birth certificate of a child she knew wasn't yours. Had you signed it, OP, you would have been financially responsible for a child that's not even yours. A woman who loves you wouldn't have done such shitty stuff. Cut her out like the cancer she is. Now for some comments. Assuming she took all her stuff with her when she moved back to her parents' home, there is no good reason to talk to her anymore. You will do yourself a big favor if you work out what's going on in your head with a therapist. In the meantime, you are obviously a great guy. You rescheduled your whole life around your ex's prenatal appointments. You work hard at your job, and you were smart enough to catch that last red flag before you signed any birth certificate. You're also plenty young enough to start all over from scratch. Have a long-lasting and satisfying relationship, and even have your own kids. Feel your feelings now. Resolve everything as best you can, and when you're not really looking, something will come your way. As bad as this ordeal has been for you, and it certainly has, be thankful you did not put your name on the birth certificate. Be thankful that her ruse was uncovered and that she's now stuck living with the consequences of her actions, and none, and I mean none, of the blame can be attributed to you in any way. What a deceitful human being. I feel so sad for the child.